Sometimes the most important moments in our lives begin with the smallest decisions: a job application, a plane ticket, a door we choose to walk through even when everything inside us says to turn back. This is a story about one of those moments, about a young woman who traveled halfway around the world for a job she didn't entirely understand, about a man who'd built walls so high around his heart that he'd forgotten what warmth felt like, and about a little girl who'd stopped believing that anyone would ever love her enough to stay. It's a story about how broken people find each other, about how kindness can crack open doors that grief had sealed shut, about how sometimes the family you choose is more real than the family you were born into, about how love doesn't always announce itself with fireworks. Sometimes it arrives quietly, in a lullaby sung in the dark, in a hand that reaches out when you're falling, in someone who stays when everyone else has already left. This is that kind of story. And it begins on a cold Seoul morning in the Itaewon district, in a house that looked more like a fortress than a home. Amina Brooks stood outside the iron gates, looking up at the imposing structure. 3 stories of steel and glass, security cameras at every corner, guards at the entrance. Everything about this place said, "Danger. Stay away." She was 26 years old, African American, born and raised in Baltimore. She'd come to Seoul 6 months ago on a temporary work visa. The plan had been simple: work as a domestic helper for a year or two. Save every penny. Send the money home to her mother, who was battling a chronic illness that American healthcare had decided wasn't worth treating unless you could pay tens of thousands of dollars up front. Amina had tried everything else first. 2 jobs, 3 jobs, crowdfunding campaigns, loans she couldn't repay. Nothing was enough. Her mother kept getting sicker. That's how she'd found the overseas placement agency. The pay was good. Better than anything she could earn in Baltimore. Good enough that maybe she could afford her mother's treatment. For 6 months, she'd worked in various households. Rich families who treated her like she was invisible, who paid her on time but never looked at her like she was human. She'd endured it, sent money home every month, told herself it was worth it. But then her last placement ended abruptly. The family was relocating. And suddenly, Amina was scrambling to find a new position before her visa expired. The agency had called 3 days ago. Emergency placement, high-paying position, difficult household. The last nanny had quit after 2 weeks. The family was desperate, willing to pay double the normal rate. The agency had been frank. This wasn't going to be easy. But if she could make it work, the money would be life-changing. Amina had said yes without hesitation. Desperation makes you brave in ways that comfort never does. She needed this job. Her mother needed her to succeed. So she'd agreed without asking too many questions. Now, standing outside those gates, she understood. This wasn't just a wealthy family. This was something dangerous. The kind of wealth that came with armed guards, the kind of power that made people nervous, the kind of household that normal people didn't work for unless they were desperate or reckless or both. Amina was definitely desperate, and maybe a little reckless. But she wasn't stupid. She knew what this probably was. Seoul had its underworld just like Baltimore did. This was one of those families. Had to be. She should turn around. Find a safer placement. But safe jobs didn't pay double the normal rate. Safe jobs wouldn't save her mother's life. So Amina squared her shoulders, pressed the intercom button, and waited. A voice answered in Korean. Male. Gruff. "State your business?" "I'm Amina Brooks, from the placement agency, here for the interview." The gates began to swing open. No other words. Just access granted. Amina walked up the long driveway. Manicured gardens on either side. Everything perfectly maintained. The kind of precision that spoke of control. The front door opened before she reached it. A woman in her 50s stood there. Korean. wearing a formal hanbok. Her expression was neutral, but her eyes were sharp, assessing. "Follow me," the woman said in heavily accented English. No introduction, no welcome. Amina followed her through a foyer that looked more like a museum than a home. Marble floors, expensive art, everything cold and beautiful and untouched. They walked down a long hallway, past staff members who looked at Amina with expressions ranging from curiosity to pity, like they were watching someone walk into a trap. Finally, they reached a study. Dark wood paneling, floor-to-ceiling bookshelves, a massive desk, and behind that desk, a man. Hanul Yang. Though Amina didn't know his name yet. A man maybe in his early 30s, Korean, handsome in a severe way, expensive suit. But what struck her most were his eyes, cold, assessing. The eyes of someone who'd learned to trust nothing and no one. He didn't stand when she entered, didn't smile, just looked at her, studied her. "Sit," he said. English, unaccented. His voice was deep, controlled. The voice of someone who never raised it because he never needed to. Amina sat, met his gaze directly. She'd learned that with powerful men, showing fear invited disrespect. You had to look them in the eye, had to project confidence even when your heart was racing. "The agency said you're experienced with children," Hanul said. "Yes, I've worked with children in several households, different ages, different temperaments. I'm patient, good at establishing routines, good at understanding what children need even when they can't express it clearly. My daughter is 5 years old. Her name is Hayun. She hasn't spoken more than a few words in 3 years. She doesn't trust strangers, doesn't smile, doesn't play with other children. 7 nannies have tried and failed to reach her. The last one quit because she said my daughter was disturbed, broken, unreachable." His expression didn't change, but Amina caught something in his eyes. A flash of pain, quickly suppressed. A father's grief hidden beneath a cold exterior. "Children aren't disturbed," Amina said quietly. "They're hurt. And hurt children need patience and consistency, not judgment. Whatever happened to make your daughter withdraw, she's protecting herself the only way she knows how. That's not broken. That's survival. And survival can be healed if someone cares enough to try." Hanul's expression shifted, almost imperceptibly, like she'd surprised him. "You don't know what happened. Don't know why she's this way. Maybe she is broken beyond repair. Then tell me what happened. Help me understand what she survived, so I can help her heal." A long silence. Then Hanul said very quietly, "My wife died 3 years ago. Hayun was there, saw it happen. Hasn't been the same since. And I don't know how to fix it. Don't know how to reach her. So I hire people. Pay them to try. And they all fail. Because maybe you're wrong. Maybe some things are broken beyond repair." Amina felt her heart ache. For this cold man. For his traumatized daughter. Nothing is broken beyond repair. Not children. Not people. Not families. It just takes time. And patience. And someone willing to stay even when it's hard. That's what your daughter needs. Not another person who'll give up when she doesn't respond the way they expect. She needs someone who'll keep showing up, keep being present, keep offering love even when she's not ready to accept it yet. "I can be that person, if you'll let me." Another long silence. Hanul studied her face, then asked, "Why are you here? Really? American women don't usually come to Seoul to work as domestic helpers. What are you running from?" "I'm not running from anything. I'm running towards something. My mother is sick. Back in Baltimore. She needs treatment that costs more money than I could ever earn at home. So I came here. To earn enough to save her life. That's why I'll stay even when your daughter pushes me away. Because I understand what it means to fight for someone you love, to do whatever it takes, to refuse to give up. That's what drives me. And that's what your daughter will feel from me. That I'm not going anywhere. That I'm committed. That she matters. Hanul was quiet for a very long time. Then he said, the pay is double the standard rate. You'll live here. You'll be responsible for Hayun from wake up to bedtime. I work long hours. You'll often be alone with her. There are security protocols, rules, things you cannot ask about, places you cannot go. This is not a normal household. You understand that? Yes. I understand. And it doesn't concern you? What kind of business I might be involved in? Amina looked at him steadily. What concerns me is that there's a little girl in this house who hasn't smiled in 3 years, who's lost in grief and trauma, who needs someone to see her and love her and show her that the world isn't only pain. That's what concerns me. Everything else is your business, not mine. I'm here for her. That's all. Something in Hanul's expression changed, softened almost imperceptibly. You're either very brave or very foolish. I'm not sure which. Maybe both, Amina said. But I'm also very good at my job. Give me 2 weeks. If your daughter doesn't respond to me, I'll leave, and you won't owe me anything. But if she does respond, you hire me permanently. And you let me do my job my way. Without interference. Without giving up when progress is slow. Deal? The corners of Hanul's mouth almost lifted. You're negotiating with me, in my own home. That's bold. That's confidence. I know what I can do. I know how to reach traumatized children. You're desperate? Or you wouldn't have agreed to interview me. The agency told you I was the only candidate willing to take this position. So you need me as much as I need this job. That's just honest negotiation between 2 people who can help each other. Now Hanul definitely almost smiled. 2 weeks. Trial period. You prove yourself or you leave. Agreed. Agreed. You can start tomorrow. Mrs. Kang will show you to your quarters. Try not to fail like all the others. He turned back to the papers on his desk. The interview is over, but Amina didn't move immediately. Mr. Young, one more thing. I'm not here to serve you. I'm here to help your daughter. That means I need your support. Not your interference, not your judgment. I need you to trust me. Can you do that? He looked up, surprised again. I don't trust anyone. Then learn, for her sake, because she needs her father to trust someone. To show her that not everyone leaves, that some people can be counted on. If you can't trust me, how will she ever learn to trust anyone? Hanul stared at her, something flickering in his cold eyes. You have courage, speaking to me this way. Most people are afraid. I'm not most people, and I'm not here to be afraid. I'm here to do a job, to help a child, to make a difference. Fear doesn't help with any of that. So yes, I have courage. And yes, I'll speak honestly even when it's uncomfortable. Because that's what your daughter needs. Someone who tells the truth. Someone who's real. If that bothers you, tell me now, before she gets attached. A long moment of tension. Then Hanul nodded once. Tomorrow, 8 a.m. Don't be late. Amina stood, bowed slightly, then followed Mrs. Kang out of the study. Mrs. Kang showed her to a small suite of rooms on the 2nd floor. Simple but comfortable. Better than any accommodation she'd had in Seoul so far. You start tomorrow, 8 a.m., Mrs. Kang said. Miss Hayun wakes at 7. You meet her in her room. 3rd floor. You make breakfast. You plan activities. You keep her safe. You follow rules. You don't ask questions. You understand? I understand. Good. Most girls don't last. House is difficult. Master is difficult. Child is difficult. You seem strong. Maybe you last. Maybe not. Mrs. Kang's expression softened slightly. But be careful. This house has secrets. Dark secrets. Don't try to learn them. Just do job. Keep head down. Survive. That's best way. After Mrs. Kang left, Amina sat on the bed. Thought about what she'd gotten herself into. A powerful man with cold eyes, a traumatized child who'd witnessed her mother's death, a household full of secrets. This was nothing like what she'd expected. But plans changed. Life happened. You adapted or you failed. And Amina had come too far to fail now. That night, Amina barely slept. She thought about meeting Hayoun, about trying to connect with a child who decided the world was too painful to engage with. She'd worked with traumatized children before, back in Baltimore. Kids who'd witnessed violence, who'd lost parents, who'd learned too young that the world was cruel. She knew how to be patient, how to be present without demanding, how to offer safety without forcing trust. She knew that healing took time, that love, real, unconditional, consistent love, was the only thing that really worked. But knowing all that didn't make it easier, didn't guarantee success, didn't mean Hayoun would respond to her. Morning came too quickly. Amina dressed carefully. Simple clothes, nothing flashy, nothing that would intimidate a child. Mrs. Kang met her in the hallway, led her upstairs to the third floor, to a door painted with delicate flowers, Hayoun's room. She's awake, Mrs. Kang said. But she won't talk, won't look at you, won't respond. Don't take it personal. She's like this with everyone, even her father. I understand. Thank you. Amina took a deep breath, then knocked gently. No response. Hayoun, my name is Amina. I'm going to come in now, just to say hello. Is that okay? No response. But silence wasn't the same as refusal. She carefully opened the door. The room was beautiful, decorated in soft pastels, stuffed animals everywhere, books, toys, everything a 5-year-old could want. But it felt unused, like nobody actually played here. And in the corner, sitting on the floor with her back against the wall, was Hayoun. She was tiny, small for 5, thin, pale, dark hair in a neat bob. She wore a simple dress. She looked like a doll, perfect and lifeless. Her eyes were open but unfocused, lost in whatever world she'd retreated to. Amina's heart broke. This wasn't a disturbed child. This was a destroyed child. Someone who'd witnessed something so terrible that she'd had to shut down completely to survive. Amina sat down on the floor, not too close, giving Hayoun space. She didn't speak immediately, just sat, just breathed, just was present. After several minutes, she said quietly, I know you probably don't want me here. Don't want another stranger trying to make you talk or smile or pretend everything's okay when it's not. I understand that. And I'm not going to force you to do anything. I'm just going to be here. If you want me to leave, you can shake your head or point at the door. I'll listen. I promise. No response. Hayoun didn't move, didn't acknowledge Amina at all. I'm not going to give up, Amina continued. Even if you don't talk to me, even if you don't look at me, I'm going to keep showing up. Keep being here. Keep offering care even if you're not ready to accept it. Because you deserve that. You deserve someone who doesn't give up, who doesn't leave. You deserve someone who stays. That's what I'm going to be. Someone who stays. Still nothing. But Amina hadn't expected anything. Not on day one. Healing took time. Trust took longer. She was prepared to wait. She spent that first morning just sitting in Hayoun's room, not forcing conversation, just being there, breathing, existing, showing through her presence that she was safe. At lunchtime, Amina made food. Simple meal, rice, vegetables, protein. She brought it to Hayun's room, set it on the floor near the little girl. Not too close. I made lunch, Amina said gently. You don't have to eat it. But it's here if you get hungry. I'll be right outside. If you need anything, just open the door. I'll hear you. She left the plate and stepped outside, sat on the floor in the hallway, waited. An hour passed. Then the door opened slightly. Hayun was standing there, the plate in her small hands, empty. She'd eaten everything. She set the plate down, then retreated back into her room. But before the door closed completely, for just a second, her eyes met Amina's. Just long enough for Amina to see that she was there, that she was present, that maybe she was paying attention. It wasn't much, but it was something. And something was more than nothing. Something was hope. That evening, Amina reported to Hanul in his study. How did it go? He asked. Cold voice, expecting failure. She ate the lunch I made, and she looked at me. Briefly, but she looked. That's all? After a full day? That's everything. For a child who hasn't connected with anyone in 3 years, eating food I prepared and making eye contact is huge progress. It means she's not completely shut down. It means there's hope. Hanul looked skeptical. Or it means she was hungry? Maybe, but I don't think so. I think she's testing me, seeing if I'm safe, seeing if I'll stay. And I will stay. I'll keep showing up. And eventually, when she's ready, she'll trust me. That's how healing happens. You sound very confident. I am confident. In her. Your daughter isn't broken. She's hurt. And hurt can be healed. It just takes time. Hanul was quiet. Then said, Continue, same routine tomorrow. The next 2 weeks followed a similar pattern. Amina spent her days with Hayun, sometimes in her room, sometimes in the garden, sometimes just sitting in silence. She never pushed, never demanded, just offered presence, consistency, safety. And slowly, almost imperceptibly, Hayun began to respond. Small things at first, accepting food without retreating, staying in the same room when Amina was there, occasionally looking up when Amina spoke. On day 8, Hayun let Amina sit closer. On day 10, she let Amina read to her. On day 12, when Amina was singing softly, the little girl hummed along. Just a few notes, but it was sound. It was participation. It was connection. On day 14, the last day of the trial period, Amina was making breakfast when she felt a small hand tug on her sleeve. She looked down. Hayun was there, looking up at her, still silent, but present, engaged, reaching out. Good morning, sweetheart, Amina said softly. Are you hungry? Hayun nodded. The first clear communication, the first direct response to a question. Amina felt tears threatening, but she kept her voice steady. Okay, what would you like? I can make eggs, or rice porridge, or toast with jam. Hayun pointed at the eggs. Another clear communication. Eggs it is. Do you want to help me? You could crack the eggs if you're careful. I'll show you how. Hayun hesitated, then nodded. They made breakfast together. Amina showing Hayun how to crack eggs, how to whisk them. The little girl was focused, serious. And when they sat down to eat what they'd made together, Hayun smiled. Just a tiny smile, barely visible. But there, real. The first smile in 3 years. That afternoon, when Hanul came home early to hear about the trial period, Amina told him. She smiled. We made breakfast together. She communicated. She engaged. She's still not talking. But she's connecting. She's responding. She's healing. This is working. Hanul looked at her for a long moment. I need to see for myself. Show me. They went upstairs to Hayun's room. When Hanul opened the door, Hayun looked up, saw Amina, and her face lit up, not with words, but with expression, with recognition, with something that looked almost like happiness. She stood up, walked over to Amina, took her hand, then looked at her father, still silent, but there, present, connected to someone for the first time in years. Hanul's expression changed. Something in his eyes softened. Something cracked in that cold exterior. She's never done that with anyone else. Not since her mother died. Never held anyone's hand. Never showed preference. But she just chose you. He didn't finish. Couldn't finish. Because finishing would mean admitting emotion, would mean showing vulnerability. So he just stopped, cleared his throat, composed himself. "You've earned the position," he said formally. "Permanent hire. Same terms we discussed. You'll stay. You'll help her heal." "Thank you," Amina said. "I won't let her down, I promise." "See that you don't. She's already lost too much. Can't lose anyone else. Can't survive another abandonment. If you're going to be in her life, you have to stay. Have to commit. Can you do that?" "I can do that. I will do that. She deserves someone who stays. So I'll stay. As long as she needs me. I promise." Something in Hanul's expression shifted, softened further. "Thank you. For caring. For trying. For succeeding where others failed. Thank you for seeing her. For not giving up. Thank you for being exactly what she needed when she needed it most." It was the most emotion Amina had seen from him. And in that moment she realized something. He wasn't cold because he didn't care. He was cold because he cared too much. Because his grief was so overwhelming that feeling anything meant feeling everything. And feeling everything meant drowning. So he'd shut down. Locked himself away. Two broken people in this house. Father and daughter. Both grieving. Both isolated, both lost. And somehow Amina was supposed to help heal them. Was supposed to bring warmth back to this cold place. It was more than she'd signed up for. But somehow, standing there watching Hayun hold her hand while Hanul tried not to cry, Amina understood that this was exactly where she was supposed to be. That all the choices that had brought her here were leading to something meaningful. Something that mattered beyond money or survival. Something that might actually change lives, including her own. She didn't know yet how complicated it would get. Didn't know about the dangers ahead. Didn't know that she'd fall in love with this cold man and his wounded daughter in ways that would transform her completely. She just knew that for the first time in a long time, she felt like she was doing something that mattered. Something real. Something good. And that was enough. For now. For this moment. For this beginning. Over the next 6 weeks, Amina settled into a routine with Hayun. Mornings spent making breakfast together. Afternoons in the garden or reading books or doing simple art projects. Evenings with dinner and bath time and bedtime stories. Small rhythms that created safety. That built trust. That slowly brought a traumatized child back into the world. And Hayun continued to blossom. Slowly. Carefully. But undeniably. She started pointing at things she wanted. Shaking her head when she didn't. Using gestures to communicate. Eventually, she began saying single words. Yes. No. More. Please. Basic language that most 5-year-olds had mastered years ago. But for Hayun, each word was a victory. Each sound was progress. Each moment of communication was proof that she was still there. Still present. Still capable of healing. Amina celebrated every milestone, never made a big deal externally, but internally, her heart swelled with pride and relief and joy. This child was going to be okay. It would take time, would take continued patience and consistency. But Hyun was going to heal, was going to learn to trust again, was going to be able to have a full life despite the trauma she'd survived. And as Hyun healed, something else began to happen. Something Amina hadn't anticipated, something that complicated everything. Hanul started paying attention, not just to his daughter's progress, though he noticed that. Noticed how Hyun smiled now, how she communicated, how she seemed lighter, happier, more present. He noticed and was grateful and told Amina repeatedly how remarkable her work was. But he also started noticing Amina herself, the way she moved through his house with quiet confidence, the way she sang while cooking, the way she laughed when Hyun did something funny, the way her entire face lit up when the little girl made progress, the way she existed in his cold space like a small flame, warming everything, melting the ice he'd built so carefully. At first it was just observation, professional appreciation for someone doing excellent work. But gradually it became something else. Something he didn't intend. Something he didn't want. Something he couldn't quite control. He started finding excuses to come home earlier, to eat dinner with them instead of working late, to see Hyun before bed. But really, if he was honest with himself, to see Amina, to hear her voice, to watch her interact with his daughter, to feel the warmth she brought into his house. He started noticing small things, how patient she was, how gentle, how she never raised her voice, how she treated Hyun with respect rather than talking down to her like a child, how she made even simple moments feel special, how she brought joy to mundane routines, how she made his cold house feel almost like a home. And he started noticing other things too, things he shouldn't notice about an employee, about a woman who worked for him, about someone he had power over. Things like how beautiful she was when she smiled, how graceful her movements were, how her skin glowed in the afternoon light, how her voice sounded when she was singing lullabies, how she looked holding his daughter, like they belonged together, like she was meant to be there. He tried to ignore it, told himself it was inappropriate, that she was here to do a job, that he was her employer, that any feelings beyond professional appreciation were wrong, were taking advantage, were crossing boundaries he'd set for good reasons. But feelings didn't listen to logic, didn't care about appropriateness, didn't respect boundaries just because you'd decided they should exist. Feelings did what they wanted, felt what they felt, refused to be managed or controlled or reasoned away. And what Hanul felt, increasingly and against his better judgment, was attraction. Not just physical, though that was there, but something deeper, something more substantial, something that felt like his frozen heart was beginning to thaw, like the walls he'd built were developing cracks, like maybe, just maybe, he was capable of feeling something beyond grief and duty and the cold calculation that had governed his life for 3 years. It terrified him, because feeling meant vulnerability, meant risk, meant potentially losing someone again. And he'd barely survived losing his wife. Didn't think he could survive losing anyone else. So feeling anything for anyone was dangerous, was setting himself up for pain, was opening doors he'd locked for good reasons. But terror didn't stop the feelings, just made them more complicated, more fraught, more impossible to navigate. The shift became obvious during one particular evening. Amina was making dinner. Hyun was helping, carefully stirring soup under Amina's supervision, both of them talking quietly. Hyun using more words now, short sentences, simple but clear communication, evidence of how far she'd come. Hanul was supposed to be working in his study, had papers to review, calls to make, business that required his attention, but instead, he found himself standing in the doorway, watching them, unable to look away. Amina was patient as Hayun stirred too vigorously and splashed soup onto the counter. Didn't scold, just laughed gently and helped clean up. Taught Hayun to stir more slowly, to be careful, but in a way that felt encouraging rather than critical, in a way that made mistakes feel safe, like learning opportunities rather than failures. And as she leaned close to guide Hayun's small hands, soup splashed again. This time onto Hanul's sleeve. He hadn't realized he'd moved closer. Hadn't noticed he'd stepped into the kitchen. Hadn't been aware he'd been drawn in by the scene. But suddenly he was there. Close enough that the splash hit him. "Oh, I'm so sorry." Amina immediately grabbed a towel, started dabbing at his sleeve, her hand touching his arm. Just through fabric, just practical cleaning, but contact nonetheless, connection, warmth, and Hanul froze. Actually froze, because nobody touched him. Nobody had touched him in 3 years. He'd made himself untouchable, had created distance between himself and everyone, had become someone people instinctively kept space from. But here was Amina, touching his arm, focused on cleaning the splash, not noticing how her casual contact was affecting him, not realizing that this simple, practical gesture was the first gentle touch he'd experienced in years. He stood there, silent, feeling her hand through his sleeve, feeling her warmth, feeling something in his chest crack open, something he'd thought was dead, something he'd decided would stay dead. Something that was apparently very much alive and responding to this woman with an intensity that shocked him. Amina looked up, realized he was staring at her, her hand still on his arm. For just a moment their eyes met, held, and something passed between them. Recognition maybe, awareness, acknowledgement of something neither wanted to name. Something that felt dangerous and inevitable all at once. Then Amina quickly withdrew her hand, stepped back. "Sorry, I didn't want it to stain. But it should be fine. It's just soup." "It's fine," Hanul said, voice rougher than usual. "Thank you." Awkward silence, broken by Hayun. "Daddy, hungry." The spell broke. Both adults turned their attention to the child, to the safe, appropriate focus, away from whatever had just happened between them. But that moment changed things, made something that had been potential become actual, made something that could be ignored become impossible to not see. They were aware of each other now, in ways that went beyond employer and employee, in ways that complicated everything. Over the next weeks, those moments multiplied, small interactions that felt loaded with meaning, eye contact that lasted a beat too long, accidental touches that both pulled away from quickly, awareness that hummed beneath every conversation, tension that neither acknowledged but both felt. Hanil found himself watching Amina constantly, not in a creepy way, but just drawn to her presence, to her warmth, to the way she moved through his cold world like she belonged there, like she was exactly what had been missing, like she was the answer to questions he hadn't known how to ask. And Amina found herself thinking about Hanul more than was professional, more than was appropriate, more than was safe. She thought about the glimpses of vulnerability beneath his cold exterior, about the way he looked at his daughter with such helpless love, about the way his voice softened when he talked to Hayun, about the man underneath the mafia boss, the father underneath the killer, the human underneath all that ice. She knew it was dangerous to think this way, knew that powerful men were not safe bets, knew that her position was precarious, knew that letting herself develop feelings for her employer was the worst possible idea, would end badly, would complicate everything, would probably cost her this job and the money she desperately needed. But knowing all that didn't stop the feelings, just made them more frustrating, more complicated, more impossible to navigate. The turning point came about 2 months after Amina started. It was late evening. Hayoun had been having nightmares, waking up screaming, clearly reliving whatever she'd witnessed when her mother died. Amina had been spending nights in Hayoun's room, sleeping on the floor beside her bed, ready to comfort her when the nightmares came. That particular night, the nightmare was bad. Worse than usual. Hayoun woke up screaming, thrashing, lost in terror. Amina held her, rocked her, sang to her. The lullaby she'd learned Hayoun's mother used to sing, a Korean lullaby. Simple melody, soft words, something Hayoun remembered from before the trauma, from when the world was still safe. Gradually, Hayoun calmed, stopped screaming, stopped thrashing, melted into Amina's arms, breathing slowing, body relaxing, trusting that she was safe, that the nightmare wasn't real, that Amina would protect her. Amina kept singing, kept rocking, kept holding this precious child who'd been through so much, her own tears falling silently, for Hayoun, for the mother she'd lost, for the father who didn't know how to help, for all the pain this family carried. She didn't know Hanul was standing in the doorway, didn't know he'd heard his daughter's screams and come running, didn't know he'd stopped when he saw Amina already there, already holding Hayoun, already singing the lullaby his wife used to sing. The lullaby he hadn't been able to sing himself because hearing it hurt too much, because it reminded him of everything he'd lost, because grief had stolen even that from him. But here was Amina, singing it, holding his daughter the way her mother used to, providing the comfort he couldn't give, being what Hayoun needed, being what he couldn't be, filling the hole in their family with her presence, with her warmth, with her love. And something in Hanul broke, completely broke. The walls, the ice, the control. All of it shattered as he watched this woman hold his daughter, as he heard her sing that lullaby, as he realized that she wasn't just helping his daughter heal, she was healing him too. Just by being there, just by caring, just by showing him what it looked like when someone loved without conditions, without hesitation, without holding back. He must have made a sound. Because Amina looked up, saw him standing there, saw his face, saw that he was crying, silently crying. This cold, controlled man was crying. Their eyes met, held. And in that moment, everything changed. Because they both knew, both saw, both felt it. This was more than professional, more than appropriate, more than safe. This was something neither of them could control anymore, something that had grown beyond their ability to manage, something that was going to complicate everything. Amina gently laid Hayoun down. The little girl was asleep now, calm, safe, trusting. She carefully stood up, walked to the doorway where Hanul stood. They were close, too close, close enough to touch, close enough to feel each other's breath, close enough that stepping forward would mean everything and stepping back would be a lie. "She's okay," Amina whispered. The nightmare passed. "She's sleeping now." "Thank you," Hanul said, voice rough, broken, for being here, for helping her, for singing that song, for being what she needs, for being what I can't be. Thank you. You don't have to thank me. I love her. I love being here. I love helping her heal. It's not a burden. It's a privilege. You love her. Not a question. A statement, confirming what they both knew. Yes, I love her. Is that wrong? Is that inappropriate? Should I not say that? Should I keep it professional? Should I pretend I'm just doing a job when really I care deeply about your daughter? Should I lie about what I feel? No, Hanul said quietly. Don't lie. Please don't lie. Everyone lies. Everyone pretends. Everyone performs. But you're real. You're honest. You feel things and you don't hide it. That's rare. That's precious. Don't lose that. Don't become like everyone else. Don't become cold just because the world demands it. I won't. I promise. I'll keep being real. Keep feeling. Keep caring. Even when it hurts. Even when it's complicated. Even when it makes things messy. They stood there, looking at each other, both knowing that something had shifted. Something had become undeniable, but neither willing to say it out loud. Neither willing to name what was happening, because naming it would make it real, would make them have to deal with it, would force decisions neither was ready to make. Finally, Hanul stepped back, breaking the moment. You should rest. Thank you again. For everything. He left, walked away, left Amina standing there feeling like something important had just happened. Something she couldn't quite name. Something that felt like a door opening. Or maybe like a trap closing. She wasn't sure which. The next morning, everything felt different. Hanul came to breakfast, ate with them. Something he rarely did. Usually he was gone before they woke. Working. Handling his mysterious business. But today, he was there. Sitting at the table, watching Amina and Hayun interact. Smiling slightly at Hayun's chatter. At how much progress she'd made. At how alive she seemed compared to 3 months ago. And watching Amina too. More openly than before. Like he'd given himself permission to look. To notice. To appreciate. Like the walls were down enough that he could acknowledge what he saw. That she was beautiful. That she was good. That she made his house feel like home. That she made him feel like maybe he wasn't completely dead inside. Like maybe he could feel again. Could hope again. Could maybe even love again. Amina felt his attention, felt his gaze, felt the shift in how he looked at her. It should have made her uncomfortable. Should have felt inappropriate. Should have triggered all her defenses about powerful men and dangerous situations. But it didn't. Because somehow, the way Hanul looked at her didn't feel predatory, didn't feel entitled, didn't feel like he was assuming anything. It felt almost tender, gentle, like he was discovering something precious, like he was surprised by what he felt, like he didn't quite know what to do with it but couldn't help feeling it anyway. That evening, after Hayun was in bed, Amina was cleaning the kitchen. Hanul appeared in the doorway. Can we talk? Amina's heart jumped. Of course, what about? You, this situation, what's happening here? I think we need to acknowledge it, name it, decide how to handle it, because pretending it's not happening isn't working anymore. Amina set down the dish she was washing, turned to face him. What do you think is happening? Hanul took a breath. I'm attracted to you. I have feelings I shouldn't have. About an employee. About someone who works in my house. About someone who's here to help my daughter. I know it's inappropriate. Know I should keep it professional. Know I'm in a position of power and any attention from me could feel coercive. Know all the reasons this is wrong, but I also can't stop feeling it. Can't stop noticing you. Can't stop thinking about you. Can't stop wanting more than what we have. More than professional relationship. More than employer and employee. Just more. Silence. Amina processing. Then. I feel it too. I've been trying not to. Been telling myself it's dangerous. That you're dangerous. That this job is too important to risk. That I can't afford to complicate things with feelings. But I feel it anyway. Feel drawn to you. Feel like I see who you really are beneath the cold exterior. Feel like maybe we understand each other in ways that go beyond words. Feel like this connection is real even though it shouldn't be. Even though it complicates everything. Even though it's probably a mistake. So what do we do? Hanul asked. How do we navigate this? Because I don't want you to feel pressured. Don't want you to think you have to reciprocate because I pay your salary. Don't want this to become something ugly or coercive or wrong. But I also don't want to pretend it's not there. Don't want to ignore it. Don't want to miss something real because I'm too afraid to reach for it. I don't know, Amina admitted. This is complicated. You're my employer. I need this job. My mother's life depends on the money I send home. If this goes wrong, I lose everything. But if I deny what I feel just to be safe, I lose something else. Something harder to define, but maybe just as important. The possibility of connection, of something real, of someone seeing me and me seeing them and both choosing to take a risk. So we take the risk? Hanul asked. We acknowledge this. We let it be real. We see where it goes, but carefully, slowly, with full awareness of the complications, with respect for your autonomy, with understanding that you can always say no, always step back, always choose your job security over this, without penalty, without consequences. Does that work? I think so. But you have to promise me something. If this goes wrong, if it doesn't work, if we realize it was a mistake, you won't fire me because of it. You won't punish me for trying. You won't take away this job that means everything to me. Because I care about Hayun. Love her, actually. And losing her would break my heart even more than losing this job would. So promise me that no matter what happens between us, I can still be here for her. Can you promise that? I promise. Whatever happens between us, your relationship with Hayun is separate. Protected, sacred. You'll always have a place here as long as she needs you. And she needs you. We'll need you for a long time. Maybe forever. So yes, I promise. No matter what. They stood there, having made some kind of agreement, having acknowledged what was happening, having decided to try, to risk, to see if two broken people could build something together, to see if love could exist in a house built on grief and violence and secrets, to see if maybe, just maybe, healing was possible, not just for Hayun, but for all of them. It was terrifying and exhilarating and completely impossible to predict how it would go. But they were doing it anyway, because sometimes the scariest choices are the ones most worth making. Because sometimes the risk of love is less dangerous than the certainty of isolation. Because sometimes broken people are exactly the ones who can understand each other's cracks, who can help each other heal, who can build something new from shattered pieces. That was what they were attempting, what they were hoping for, what they were risking everything to try. And neither of them knew yet how complicated it would get, how dangerous, how much they'd have to fight for it, how much they'd have to sacrifice. They only knew that it felt real, felt right, felt like something worth protecting, worth choosing, worth everything. For the next 2 months, something beautiful grew in that house, not announced, just quietly present. Hanul and Amina learning each other, building trust, finding moments of connection. He started coming home earlier, started eating dinner with them every night, started being not just a father but an engaged father, playing with Hayun, reading her stories, being there. And in those moments, Amina saw who he really was. Not the cold mafia boss, but a father who loved his daughter desperately, who was trying to heal, who was becoming human again after years of being frozen. They talked late at night after Hayun was asleep, about everything, about their pasts, their fears, their hopes, their wounds. Hanul told her about his wife, about how he blamed himself, about how he'd shut down to survive the guilt and grief. Amina told him about her mother, about Baltimore, about poverty and choosing to come to a foreign country to save someone she loved, about feeling invisible most of her life, about being strong because she had no choice. They saw each other, really saw each other, not just the surfaces but the depths, the broken pieces, the beautiful pieces, all of it. And in that seeing, something profound developed. Not just attraction, but love. Real love. The kind that sees flaws and chooses anyway. That understands wounds and offers gentleness. Hayun noticed. Children always notice. She saw her father smiling more, saw how he looked at Amina, saw how her father's cold house had become warm, how her small family of 2 was becoming a family of 3. One day, Hayun drew a picture. 3 people. She labeled them carefully. Daddy, Amina, me. A family, not Nanny, but Amina, a name, someone who belonged. She showed it to both of them, proud, happy, hopeful that this was real, that Amina would stay, that their family could be whole again even though it looked different now. It's beautiful, sweetheart, Amina said gently. Thank you for drawing us. Family, Hayun said clearly. We're family now, right? Amina looked at Hanul, waiting for him to respond. Yes, Hanul said quietly. We're family, all 3 of us. Hayun hugged them both, making them promise through that embrace. Promise to stay. Promise to be family. We promise, Amina whispered. Even though promising terrified her, she promised anyway, because this child needed to hear it. That evening, Hanul found Amina on the garden terrace. She was looking up at the stars. Regrets? Hanul asked. No, but fear, because promising is easy, keeping promises is hard, and I've seen too many promises broken. And now I've promised your daughter that I'm staying, that I'm family, and I meant it. But I'm also terrified that something will happen. Then we make sure that doesn't happen, Hanul said. We protect this, because I love you, Amina. I didn't want to, didn't plan to, didn't think I could. But I do. I love you. And I'm choosing you. Not just for my daughter's sake, but for mine, because you make me feel alive again. So I'm choosing you. And asking you to choose me back. Can you do that? Amina felt tears forming. I love you too. I've been trying not to. Trying to protect myself from getting hurt. But I love you. And I love Hayun. And I love this life we're building. So yes, I choose you. I choose us. I choose to risk everything for the possibility that maybe we can be a family. Hanul smiled. Actually smiled. A real smile that reached his eyes. Then it's decided. We're building a family. Together. He pulled her close. She stepped into his arms. Let herself be held. Let herself believe that maybe this could work. They stood there under the stars, both damaged, both healing, both choosing to try, to risk, to love despite everything that said they shouldn't. It was beautiful. Perfect. Everything either of them could have wanted. And then everything fell apart. They'd forgotten about Ma Dong-wook, Hanul's uncle. The man who'd expected to take over when Hanul's father died, who'd been waiting for years for Hanul to show weakness. And Hanul's growing attachment to Amina was exactly that kind of weakness. Dong-wook had been watching, had seen how Hanul changed, how he softened, and he'd identified the cause. Amina. Dong-wook decided to eliminate that vulnerability, to force Hanul to choose between his position and his heart. The attack came through reputation. Dong-wook spread rumors that Amina was a spy, that she'd infiltrated the household to gather information, that everything about her was a lie designed to bring down the organization. The rumors spread quickly. Within days, everyone was suspicious. Everyone was telling Hanul that he needed to investigate. And Hanul, despite his feelings, had to respond, had to investigate. because ignoring them would look weak. They found nothing, because there was nothing to find. Amina was exactly who she said she was. But finding nothing didn't stop the rumors, didn't make people trust her. The pressure mounted. People demanding Hanul remove her, fire her, send her away. And Hanul, caught between his heart and his position, didn't know what to do. Amina saw it happening, saw the suspicion, saw how Hanul became distant, withdrawn, cold again, like he was preparing to choose his organization over her. She understood. He had responsibilities, but understanding didn't make it hurt less, because she'd trusted him, had believed him when he said he was choosing her, and now he was pulling away. The confrontation came on a Thursday evening. "We need to talk, now, in my study." His tone was cold, formal, all the warmth gone. Amina finished tucking Hayun in, then followed Hanil downstairs. Now she felt small, scared, waiting to lose everything. "The council has concerns," Hanil said, not looking at her. "About you, about whether you're trustworthy. They want proof that you're not what they suspect." "What do they suspect?" "That you're a spy. That your whole story about your mother is a lie. That everything about you is manipulation." "And what do you think?" Critical question. "Do you believe that? Do you think I'm lying? Do you think loving you was a strategy? Is that what you believe?" Hanul finally looked at her. "I don't know what to believe. I want to trust you. But I've been wrong before. I can't afford to be wrong again. Can't afford to risk everything I've built on faith that you're telling the truth." "So you're choosing them over me?" "I'm choosing survival. For me, for Hayun, for everyone who depends on me. I can't destroy all of that for one person. I have responsibilities." "Then tell me to leave," Amina said, voice breaking. "Tell me you want me to go. Just tell me. Am I staying or going?" Silence. Long, painful. "I don't know. I need time. Need to prove to the council that you're trustworthy." "Life doesn't work that way," Amina said, tears flowing. "Sometimes you have to choose. That's what love requires. Risk. Faith. Choosing someone even when it's hard. That's what I did. I chose you. And now you won't choose me back. Won't fight for me. That's what hurts. It's not that simple." "Yes, it is. Either you trust me or you don't. Either I matter or I don't. Everything else is just excuses. Just fear. Just you hiding behind responsibility instead of admitting that you're too scared to risk anything for love. You don't understand my world, don't understand that choosing you could destroy everything." "Then I'll make it simple for you," Amina said, standing up. "I'm leaving, not because you're firing me, but because I can't stay in a place where I'm not trusted. Can't stay with someone who won't fight for me. I'll pack tonight. Be gone by morning." Problem solved. She turned to leave. Hanel said, "What about Hayun? You promised her you'd stay." "You're right. So you're going to tell her I had to go? Family emergency. My mother got sicker. You'll hire another nanny. And eventually, Hayun will be okay. She'll survive. Kids always do. So yes, I'm leaving. And you get to be right. Get to go back to being cold and alone and safe." She left, went to her room, started packing, crying for Hayun, for Hanul, for herself, for the family they'd almost been. Hayun found her 20 minutes later, saw the suitcase. "You're leaving? You promised you'd stay." Amina knelt down. "I'm so sorry, sweetheart. I have to go. My mother is sick. I need to go home." "But you're my family, too. You promised. You can't leave." "I know, baby. I know I promised. And I'm so sorry. But sometimes life doesn't go the way we want. That doesn't mean I don't love you." You're everything. This isn't about you. Hayoon was crying desperately. Don't go. Please don't go. I love you. Daddy loves you. We need you. Please stay. I'll be better. Just, please don't leave. Amina was sobbing too. You don't have to be better. You're perfect exactly as you are. This is about adults making complicated decisions. Hanul appeared in the doorway, saw his daughter crying, saw Amina crying, saw what he'd done, what his fear had created, and something in him broke. Actually broke. Wait, he said. Don't go. Please. I'm sorry. I was wrong. I was scared and wrong and stupid. I should have chosen you. Should have fought for you. Should have trusted you. I'm sorry. Please don't go. Please stay. Please give me another chance. Amina looked at him, wanting to believe, but also hurt. How do I know you mean it? How do I know you won't pull away again? How do I know you actually choose me? Because I'm choosing right now, in front of Hayoon, in front of everyone. I'm choosing you over the council, over my position, over everything. And if they don't like it, they can remove me. I don't care anymore. I only care about you, about Hayoon, about this family. So I'm fighting. I'm choosing. I'm risking everything. For you. For us. Please stay. Something in Amina's heart shifted. This was what she'd needed. This declaration. This choice. This public commitment. Okay, I'll stay. But you have to keep choosing me. Every day. You have to keep fighting. Can you do that? Yes. Absolutely yes. Every day. I'll choose you. I'll fight for you. I promise. Hayoon launched herself at both of them, held them together. Family. We're family. No one leaves. We stay together. Promise. We promise, they both said. And this time, they meant it. This time, they'd fight to keep it. It wasn't over. Dangers would still lurk. But they were together. They'd chosen each other. They'd fought for it. And now they'd keep fighting. Because that's what love was. Not the feeling. Though that mattered too. But the choosing. The fighting. The staying even when leaving would be easier. The believing that some things were worth the cost. 3 months later, Dongwook made his final move, kidnapped Hayoon, tried to force Hanul to step down. Instead, it proved the opposite. Because Hanul had Amina now. Had her strength. Her courage. Together, they got Hayoon back. Together, they ended Dongwook's threat. Together, they protected their family. Proof that love wasn't weakness. Was strength. And afterward, when Hayoon was safe and Dongwook was neutralized, Hanul took Amina's hand. Led her to Hayoon's room, where their daughter was sleeping peacefully. Thank you, Hanul whispered. For not giving up. For staying. For fighting. For being family. Thank you for choosing me, Amina replied. For fighting when it mattered. For being brave enough to love. For giving me a family. They stood there, watching their daughter sleep. Their daughter. Not biologically, but in every way that mattered. The child they both loved. The child they'd both fought for. It was everything. Perfect. Complete. The family they'd built from impossibility. The love they'd earned through fighting. Against all odds. They'd done it. And standing there, holding each other, watching their child sleep, they both understood. This was home. This was family. This was love. Real, complicated, hard-fought, completely worth it love. The kind that survived anything. The kind that proved that broken people could build something whole, something beautiful, something lasting. That was their story, their truth, their family. And it was everything. We cannot choose our past, but we can choose who will hold our hand as we walk into the future. And sometimes, love is not words, it is standing by each other's side at exactly the right moment. If you were in this situation, do you believe that after the deepest wounds, people can still love again? Have you ever met someone who made your life feel lighter? Share your story so that other older adults can feel warmth too.